The Last Showgirl's having one of them days, and Mickey 17's an old guy. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and yes, this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
And welcome back to another jam-packed week of movies to talk about that Van has seen, of course, way before any of us, because, well, that's his job, really. I mean, you just bury your nose in movie goss and movie news throughout the week. Is there anything you would like to highlight? Anything new?
What? You mean like the Oscars? We didn't have the Oscars this past week. Like, Honora is officially the best film in the world. You know, if we go with Oscar logic, you know, that's how they would like to see it. Like, Honora is the best film of the last 12 months. Which, fair enough. I think it was in a lot of top tens. I think most people. I would have been in my top 10 or 20 of last year. So it's like, I'm not going to be disappointed. I think Honora's very good. I think Mikey Madison's very good in it.
Were there any surprises?
The Wild Robot didn't win Best Animated Feature.
Yeah,
which I'm sure you'd agree with me is a travesty. It went to
100%.
Flow. It went to Flow instead, which, to be fair, we haven't reviewed yet because it hasn't had a UK release yet, I don't believe. Trying to think what else there was. Oh, there was the Amelia Perez thing. Amelia Perez won Best Song, and it was a garbage song, just a garbage song. That was the worst category of this year, the best song category. The best song category was rubbish. The best song in there was the one from Sing Sing. Okay, and it didn't stand a chance. Where was Ain't No Love in Oklahoma from Twisters? Where was Salika's Save Me from Trap? They're not doing that. Like, this is why the movie theme song is a dead art, because it gets no love and no recognition, even when you do make an effort. Do you remember the 90s when every great movie, every great blockbuster came with a banging theme song?
Yeah, well, and the 80s as well.
And the 80s, but like it had its peak in the 90s when you had things like Aerosmith doing Armageddon and stuff like that. Like that was the golden, like just the golden cherry. It was unbeatable. But then now we live in a theme songless age, and this is why, because even the Oscars show them no love.
Well, you can't blame him on that sense then, can you? All right, well, I'll quickly run through some of the movies we're going to talk about today, actually. We've got The Last Showgirl, we've got Mickey 17, we've got One of Them Days, and we are going to start with was it an action comedy, I suppose, really?
Yeah, I think for the most part, you'd go with action comedy to describe this. Okay, so it's called Old Guy. And it's the latest film directed by Simon West. Pardon me. To put this in context for you, Simon West is an action director who most famously, and I cannot stress this enough, directed Con Air. Okay? Not an insignificant movie, bloody Con Air. Okay? It's one of the tentpoles of the last 30 years, Con Air. Everybody loves Con Air. He directed that. He then directed a couple of turkeys, and to be honest with you, has found himself pretty much on the C list in the modern day. I believe he directed one of the Expendables sequels. Maybe it was Expendables 2, I think he directed. So now we've got a movie that stars Christoph Waltz as a sort of retirement age, basically mob hitman. Like a hitman for the mob, enforcer / hitman. He's ruthless and he has to kill people sometimes, and he's very kind of cold and calculating about it. But he's also kind of just a quirky old dude, exactly as you imagine Christoph Waltz actually is, funnily enough. And he is given an assignment by his boss that effectively phases him out. He is to take his up-and-coming like Gen Z replacement under his wing for a mission, supervise him, show him how to do the job, and have him replace him. This is what he sort of tests, and the sort of bickering as to who's actually in charge as a result. They team up with a friend of Christoph Waltz's, Lucy Liu, who's a sort of mob figure and seductress herself along the way, and they go on a mission from London to Belfast, which also happens to be where Christoph Waltz's mum lives, and we find ourselves wandering into the demons of Christoph Waltz's past as he attempts to train his new recruit. Have a listen. This is the dynamic between like Gen Z and Boomer would be the sort of dynamic they're going for here.
So what did Opal tell you about this thing?
Said you'd tag along, give me feedback on how I handle myself in the north.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
Do you know who I am?
I know you've been around.
I around. I've been at the top for twice as long as you exist.
Longer, probably.
Probably. So I'm not tagging along. I'm leading the charge.
I mean, from how you've described, it's sort of got American Bond vibes to the movie. Is that sort of how it plays out?
No, this wants to go a bit more old school and a bit quirkier. So this, I think, is trying for effectively Grosse Point Blank. It's going for that. So have you ever seen Grosse Point Blank?
Yes,
it's just,
yeah.
That is just one of the greats of the late 90s indie comedy scene.
Agreed.
And this is trying to gain a similar kind of traction with a similar kind of vibe. The problem is it's not really funny or sharp enough to seem anything other than just a pale imitation and an homage at best. And for a director like Simon West, someone who accomplished, again, bloody Con Air, to be involved in this, and the action scenes to be as dull as they are, as phoned as... There's a sequence in which Christoph Waltz just ices a shopping centre full of dudes in the dark. And using actual trickery. And you're thinking, why does this look so dull? Why is this so uninteresting? And I could not wrap my head around that. Like, this was a movie that Vic Armstrong working on it quite clearly. But no, it didn't quite work. Lucy Liu doesn't really get to do much with the sort of charisma that you would hire Lucy Liu for. Christoph Waltz is not given the material to justify his presence either. And Cooper Hoffman, I think, just comes across as too smug for this to work. It's not funny enough or sharp enough, as I say, to pull off the Grosse Point Blank thing that's going for. It's not likable enough to pull off the buddy dynamics that it's going for. And I'm saying the action scenes are too dull to really sell it. So there's not really a level on which it truly works. And I say that is a shame, given the talent that's involved here, because these are like named people. But I think it might just be wrong combination of ingredients, to be honest.
A rom-com.
a rom-com, yeah. A rom-com, I think, would be in this case. Yeah, I think so. But definitely a wrong combination of ingredients here. And, I was very disappointed. Just based entirely on the description of director of Con Air, Christoph Waltz, Lucy Liu, mobster comedy. I just had that to go on and the poster. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm down for that. Like, sell me whatever. This did not match. Like, you'd hope for something at least as funny as The 51st State with Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Carlyle. But no, believe me, not even worth mentioning in the same breath, sadly.
If you could change one thing in this movie that would make it good enough to say it's average, is there something that comes to mind, or is it just a bit of a lost cause?
I think you could have done another rewrite on this script, punched up the characters, and it could have been something. But you don't care. Characters do pretty much deliver their life to you purely in expositional backstory. And literally expository dialogue it's delivered to you in. And it is, and you do feel like you're simply just being told about a character rather than being shown a character at any point. And it's a shame, given that there are some, like I say, there are obviously the ingredients there for something really good. And I wonder if punching up the script could have done it.
Okay, well, if you want to check it out yourself, you can. Old Guy is in cinemas from today. In fact, it's already in cinemas, isn't it? No, it is today.
It's today.
It is from today. All right, so next then, I think it's another comedy, isn't it? We're looking at One of Them Days, which already annoys me because it should be One of These Days or Those Days, right?
Right.
That annoys me a little bit.
But it's for a reason. It is for a reason, though.
Okay, well, we'll find out what that reason is, and we'll find out what Van thinks about it in a second. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then. We're going to dive straight into our next movie, which is One of Them Days, which is listed as a buddy comedy, and it's out in cinemas from today. What's a buddy comedy?
A buddy comedy.
Yeah.
Do you know what? To be honest with you, to explain this to you in a particular example is going to have to refer to what the film is quite like, because this movie is a lot like Superbad or Booksmart or Harold and Kumar.
Okay.
In it's two buddies on an adventure together.
Right.
And the unifying factor is their friendship is the thing binding them together. Like between Harold and Kumar, or like between Jonah Hill and Michael Cera in Superbad, or like between Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein in Booksmart. And it's literally the same kind of going from point A to point B in your city, usually in the same town in which you live, over the course of one day or night kind of adventure. So again, Superbad, Booksmart, to an extent, Can't Hardly Wait. You know what I mean? Those kinds of movies. This one stars Keke Palmer, who you would most recently remember as being the absolute scene stealer in Jordan Peele's Nope. About a year or so ago. She was also in Hustlers as well, I believe, in 2019. She stars opposite... Now, you're going to have to help me out with this one, because you're the radio presenter, so you would know.
Oh, right.
Right. The musician. Is her name SZA? SZA.
Yeah. As far as I know, yeah.
It is SZA. It's pronounced... Right, okay. So SZA is her best friend. So Keke Palmer is Drew. SZA is Alyssa. And they are two best mates who share a flat in a relatively low-income area in, I think, downtown Los Angeles. And through a contrivance involving Alyssa's deadbeat boyfriend squandering their money, they lose their rent money, and they have 9 hours in which to drum up roughly $1,500 to make the month's rent before they are kicked to the curb. And that's the initial plot. They literally have to get through those 9 hours and get to $1,500 through whatever means necessary, taking on basically side quests and missions along the way. So it's effectively kind of a sketch show like narrative that then has a through line in the form of the debt that they're trying to pay off. And along the way, you've also got, for instance, Drew's upcoming job interview, which is going to be managing a restaurant chain, which has the potential to elevate her out of this income threshold and up to into quote unquote the big life or the easy life. So I've got a clip for you, and this is just to put this in context for you. This is one of their attempts to earn some money this day. This is the pair of these ladies attempting to get a payday loan at 1900.5% APR.
Ooh.
Have a listen.
Do you want the loan or not?
I do work at a diner. I'm a waitress. I make a steady paycheck.
Okay, fine, yeah. I'm gonna see your ID so I can run your credit check.
Full disclosure, my credit score is currently a little...
No, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a job, arms and a leg, the system will approve you,
Are you having a heart attack?
Oh my God, ma'am.
Are you okay?
Are you? I've never seen a credit score this low.
Well,
Oh
when I went to business school, I had to get a loan.
I mean, this is right up my street, this kind of movie, honestly.
Just out of interest, as a man whom I know has had to go and ask for a mortgage in the past year or so, is that not the nightmare scenario you always have in your head? That exact clip.
That's why I do it online, mate. That's why I do it online. It sounds like this is a movie that's got quite a lot of belly laughs that run through it. Hopefully, that's not the only one.
Yeah, no, it is really funny, and I think you'd enjoy this. I think, regardless of the fact that it is quite clearly aimed and is given a sense of humour kind of focused at, say, African-American women in their late 20s or early 30s, that would seem to be the target demo. It does also have the broader appeal in that it still has the Superbad, Booksmart, Can't Hardly Wait, Harold and Kumar kind of appeal, because it's a very comparable movie. If you liked any of those, you can watch this and it'll play very similarly. And it comes with its own grab bag of characters and its own little weird cameos and things like that. There's a particular movement involving the love interest for Keke Palmer, which at first threatens to be one thing and then actually quickly goes in another direction without really laying it on too thick. It has some fun with you. So it basically has some fun at the expense of stereotypes, which I thought was quite clever as well. In the same way that Harold and Kumar kind of gently did it with racial stereotypes, this kind of does a very similar thing. Although Harold and Kumar went with very specific, racial stereotypes, obviously, that don't really overlap here. But yeah, this is quite clever, quite sharp, and you will go along with it just on the sort of the laugh per minute ratio. Its hit rate is really high.
It does seem to me like it's a sort of movie as well that a lot of people would be able to connect with it and kind of understand parts and go, oh, I do that, or my other half does that as well. There's a lot of that in it.
Yeah, there are comments in there. There's things about like, you know, how like Uber etiquette and stuff like that you're just like, yeah, okay, I kind of get this. Yeah, and certain, again, there's some racial stereotyping because obviously my partner and I watch this. There's a certain racial element there, and yeah, there's certain things you can that will play very hard to some audiences. I mean, to be fair, like I say though, it is generically quite fun, like broadly speaking, quite fun, as well as, you know, being quite specifically satirical in and of its own voice. But it does have mainstream appeal as well. Also, Maud Apatow turns up in this. Maud Apatow is now like a sort of cameo player, which that was a weird moment for me. And also, perfectly cast in it. Like, I think they found the exact right role that you stunt cast Maud Apatow in. Definitely has to be said. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I would watch it again. I quite plan to at some point. I will see this again. But yeah, do catch it. It's quite fun.
What would you say? 3 star, 3.5 star, 4 star?
I mean, it's academically, I would say it's a 4-star written version of a sort of 3-star film.
Great. Well, I mean, it's certainly attracted the attention of me. I would love to see it. Sounds good. Sounds funny. One of them days in cinemas from today. Still to come then, we're going to look at The Last Showgirl, and next, we'll see what Mickey 17's all about. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Right, let's move into our next movie. I know nothing about this. I know Robert Pattinson's in it, but reading the synopsis, I couldn't decide without looking at any pictures whether it's animated or whether it's real, because it says Mickey 17, known as an expendable, goes on a dangerous journey to colonize an ice planet. And it just sounds like a sort of, you know, Disney animated movie to me, but I don't think it is.
Not at all, no. First of all, it's the new film from director Bong Joon-ho, who brought us Parasite in 2020 and, you know, won a bunch of Oscars, quite famously for that. But prior to that as well, had made Okja, which was fine, and Snowpiercer, which was awesome. So, you know, I got a lot of love for Bong Joon-ho, as you know. You've heard me rave about Bong Joon-ho.
I have.
and so he's back. By the way, I mean, if you've never seen Parasite, I wholeheartedly recommend Parasite, because I know you love Squid Games. And imagine Parasite is more of a drama thriller version of Squid Games. Like, what if you kept it in the real world? But seriously, check that out. You actually really would. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Parasite, but do enjoy it. It's very, very good. Anyway, so his next project, of course, being Mickey 17, an adaptation of the novel Mickey 7. Now, Mickey 17 is the story of Mickey Barnes, played by Robert Pattinson, who has taken a menial job, basically the cheapest way that you can get off of Earth and into space in the near future, is on a colony ship, effectively, serving as, quote-unquote, an expendable. A job they'll pay literally anyone for, because you don't need any skills, because you are basically going to be the canary in the coal mine. So if they need to, when they need to see if a room is filled with fatal radiation, just send the expendable in. And then when he dies, you can 3D print a new body and just download the brain back into it. And that's what Mickey is. So he is Mickey 17 because 16 previous versions of him have died.
Love this!
I thought you would like this. And in a society that's basically, that tonally presented to us is kind of a bit satirical, kind of a bit Fifth Element-y, at times a bit Terry Gilliam, if you will. Imagine that kind of, or Poor Things, kind of OTT surrealist kind of thing. Mickey accidentally survives what everyone thinks is a terminal accident, in which he is, in which he's set to be killed by some gribbly monsters on the ice planet that they are attempting to colonize. The next print is initiated, Mickey is downloaded into it, and Mickey 18 goes on with his life. However, Mickey 17 finds his way home. And the society Mickey 17 and 18 live in has a whole rule about how there can never be such a thing as multiples. And the fact that there's going to be two of them walking around at the same time sets off this whole sequence of controversies and events that threaten to bring down this fragile, aspiring, authoritarian society. Have a listen. As this is basically what they put Mickey through every single day.
Hi, Mickey. How you doing? Are you experiencing any vertigo, nausea, or dizziness?
I guess I am feeling a little dizzy.
It's only gonna get worse from here, Mickey, with a nice fever, too. Truth is, you're exposed to unthinkable levels of radiation right now, which is why we sent you out in the first place.
Okay.
If you could give us a full description of your symptoms. So, a couple things I want to go through on our cosmic radiation checklist. First, how long until your skin starts to burn? Then, how long until you go blind? And of course, how long until you die? That's the real nut we're after.
I mean, it's a great concept. I'm assuming that obviously it's the same him that gets downloaded into the next body, but also he has to go through all of the pain and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, the plot brings this up on a few occasions. It's the first thing everyone asks him, for instance. Apparently, which as the story shows us, one of the first things everyone asks him in conversation is, what's it like to die? Which, of course, he doesn't necessarily actually retain, because the version of him that's downloaded is usually from, like, the previous morning. He gets regularly saved, for instance, for updates. So it's usually like the version of the previous morning. And different iterations of him do come out with different personality quirks. So Mickey 18, for instance, is a lot more aggressive than Mickey 17. Mickey 17 is a bit more sensitive, a bit more emotionally sensitive, for instance, and empathic. But it is an interesting film. So I can say tonally, it would sit, especially if you're going with Bong Joon-ho movies, it sits weirdly close to Okja in terms of we are presenting the sort of a present day, but with a slightly satirical edge where we just want to make it slightly OTT. And that allows us to go for a bit more scenery chewing. Very much that with Okja, but with the sort of clone sort of theatrics of Duncan Jones's Moon. If you ever saw that, when there were two Sam Rockwells on the moon, they had the computer that was Kevin Spacey.
No.
Did you see that one? That is a really good movie. I think it's from
Sounds great.
I think it's from 2009. It was Duncan Jones's. I think it was, if it wasn't his first film, it was his first big movie. And it came out the same, it was the anniversary of the moon landing that it opened. It opened on the 40th anniversary of the moon landing. And it was brilliant. It was a badass movie starring Sam Rockwell. He was great in it, and there was clones. But this feels almost like a sort of answer, a rebuttal to that, and just giving it a sort of punchy thing. I say the book was called Mickey 7. They've upped that by 10 for the movie, so Mickey 17 for the movie, literally so that they can have comedic montages, for instance, where he's just killed in a variety of increasingly stupid and sadistic ways. You know what I mean? There is a sort of absurdist, Terry Gilliam-like comedy to get out of that. The problem is, of course, it doesn't quite succeed. You can see what it's trying to go for, and you do respect it on the level that you respected Okja or you would a lot of Terry Gilliam movies. But it's not an out-and-out banger like Parasite or Snowpiercer are in the pantheon of Bong Joon-ho movies. Like, this does not come close to topping either of those two. Or, for those people who prefer, I think it's The Host, for instance, as well. Like, for my money, I do think Snowpiercer is his banger. But and this is not a patch on it, but I would say, yeah, it's about as good, about as strong, and about as successful as Okja. So I think, what was the tagline of Okja? It was like hashtag free the super pig or something like that, I think, at the time. That movie was kind of a letdown in the same way that this feels a bit of a letdown in that regard. It does feel like well-made parts of other better movies, the parts that just don't necessarily go together.
I mean, I think I would enjoy it because if I was to write a movie, it would be something like this. I like the time travel or sci-fi elements of stuff. This is the sort of idea that I would come up with, I think.
Because I think I'd have gone funnier, I think, to be honest, with it. And I get the impression that the novel must have a slightly more Douglas Adams bent to it. Something that I think maybe it's a lost in translation issue there, but the comedic side of it doesn't necessarily work. It feels quirky rather than funny. And you feel like this kind of needed to be funny. There are funny moments in it. There are some great laugh out loud funny moments in it, but you feel like you needed more of it to really sell it through. There's a sequence that particularly amused me, for instance, like we had a good laugh about it on our row, that was the response of Robert Pattinson's love interest. So Naomi Aki appears as his on-screen girlfriend, and like, what happens if you've got two of your boyfriend? And also, like, what do you not have to ask permission for if they are literally the same person? You know, that kind of sensibility, like that comes up and is dealt with head on. You know what I mean? Like very specifically. Things like that I thought were quite clever. And Mark Ruffalo really is trying to go for proper, like, he's trying to top his own role in Poor Things with how OTT and scenery chewing he's going for here. It's like he looked at Bong Joon-ho and thought, do you know what? Tilda Swinton got to have a blast in Snowpiercer. I want me some of that. And he's going with the big fake teeth, and Toni Collette playing his arm candy / very domineering Lady Macbeth wife. I would recommend it, but I would say adjust your expectations. Don't expect a Snowpiercer, and definitely don't expect a Parasite, but do expect an Okja. Definitely for that. And expect some fun, quirky, Robert Pattinson weirdness, which may or may not be your bag. In this case, I think it works, but I can usually take it or leave it. And so, yeah, I will go with a 3-star on this one for me.
Okay, well, it's good enough to be on my list because I'd love to see this. Mickey 17 in cinemas from today if you want to go and see it. Right, stay right where you are because next, Pamela Anderson, How You've Never Seen Her Before. We'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. It's our last ride and we are going to look at The Last Showgirl. If you were listening to our last section, you'll know I ended with saying Pamela Anderson, How You Have Never Seen Her Before. She is in The Last Showgirl, and not only that, we have mentioned it before, Van also got to meet her.
But yeah, I mean, that was the thing, because we were told like it was something where we'd get to do the questioning, and then they just let Edith Bowman take it over. And we're like, what? Why are we even here? You may as well have just done this in an office and broadcast it to us. Anyway, but the film is excellent, I have to say. So The Last Showgirl, which was out last week in the UK, so this was kind of a fill-in for us. I got to see this back in November, and it's fascinating how much it sticks with you. Because it's been like 2 or 3 months, and I still remember this vividly, which tells you actually it must be good. So Pamela Anderson stars as a woman pretty much her exact age, so about 58 years old. I think Pamela Anderson is about 58 years old, and she has been a Vegas showgirl, like a dancer in a Vegas show for 20 plus years, since her 20s, her prime dancing years. And the small show, which in those years has been sort of a staple piece of old classical Vegas, has, much like the city itself, fallen sort of into disarray and is now on the verge of closure, as is much of the Strip at this period. It's just that transitional point in the development of Vegas. And our showgirl, along with all of her sort of her co-stars, who form a sort of surrogate family of different age groups and hence different familial roles. So you have certain members who function as sort of aunts, and certain members who are sort of the granddaughters and the cousins kind of this group. There's even a sort of father figure in the form of manager / technician Dave Bautista. And they all sort of rally round and figure out what their next step is when it's announced that the show is going to close. And for our lead, for Pamela Anderson, that is of particular note because this has been her whole life and has, in those years, also cost her relationship with her now adult daughter, played by Billie Lourd, incidentally, daughter of Carrie Fisher. So read into that. Read into that very interesting meta casting as well there, and about this relationship and the attempt to repair that bond between mother and daughter. So have a listen. So this is Pamela Anderson firing off on a date with manager Dave Bautista about the fate of her career.
Being bathed in that light night after night, feeling seen,
feeling beautiful. That is powerful, and I can't imagine my life without it. I just think it's wild that, I'm the one who's been on the stage all these years, that I'm the one people come for. That I'm the one on the poster, and you, Eddie, are gonna go on to this show or that show, and the producers will just place you elsewhere because you know how to read a lighting cue? You just tell someone to push a damn button. And you're gonna be just fine. And I just have to disappear. You know what? I have no regrets.
Now, you haven't mentioned this, so I'm assuming no is the answer, but is there a big soundtrack to this or not?
Actually, no, not particularly. No, actually,
Missed a
not
trick
that
there.
Kind of film. The whole thing with this is going for very Leaving Las Vegas kind of vibes. This is very much the hustle and bustle of real world, jobbing, like paycheck to paycheck Las Vegas life. Still in the spotlight, but very much not the top of the pyramid kind of an idea, and going for the realities, that kind of an indie film. It's very much a character drama in every sense, and it's the kind, and obviously it's the kind of thing that just so perfectly fits its star at the point in their career they're at, and the kind of role that will do them the world of good. And Pamela Anderson is an absolute revelation in this one. I don't think anyone could have fit the bill as perfectly. This is one of those points at which, I mean, in Pamela Anderson's career, for the age she is, she's very much at the same stage that Demi Moore has been in the past. They've been an interesting contrast through award season this year, in that they represent the story of how the entertainment industry expects women to be discardable at a certain age. And whereas that has been the meta text of Demi Moore's awards campaign, but also the actual subtext of the substance, it is also the outright text of The Last Showgirl. Written and directed for the screen by Gia Coppola, who is, I believe, the niece of Francis Ford Megalopolis Coppola. So, keeping it in the Coppola family. And you do get a little cameo for Jason Schwartz as well. So there is a sort of a legitimacy being sort of injected into there from the sort of Coppola dynasty, so to speak. I think it's a brilliant performance from Pamela Anderson. I was shocked by how fully committed she went for this. It is the kind of role, like, she need really never do a movie again, and this kind of is the perfect role. This is the once in a lifetime role that I don't think she'll ever get as good again. Like, no matter what is written for her, I don't think you ever get to put this lightning back in a bottle. It's too good. It's too good a metatext. It's too good a performance. And it's in too well written a piece. And she's also surrounded by a great supporting cast as well. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think what you just said then was really refreshing, actually, because I think a lot of people would see The Last Showgirl starring Pamela Anderson and go, oh, Pamela Anderson, she's a has-been. Oh, she's not going to be very good. And I think, the fact that you can say she's incredible in this, it's refreshing. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a very much A Star Is Born quality.
Great.
That grimy tragedy. It's the booze-soaked side of the Red Velvet Rope. Tragedy, much like A Star Is Born, but obviously a lot more working class and a lot lower tier. And I thought it was tremendous. I'd like to say the supporting cast are great as well. But Batista, I mean, Dave Batista is just, that man emotes. Like, it's I don't know where he was keeping that for all those years, because I still think of Dave Batista, the wrestler, after all this time.
I was about to say yes. Yeah. I was going to say the same.
I mean, I know he doesn't even vaguely look like the same human being anymore, but he'll always be Dave Bautista, the wrestler, to me. And to see him delivering the really emotive performances that he does here, those really sort of investable, engaging performances, captivating performances that he does, like he is here, that's really impressive every time. You've also got Brenda Song and Kiernan Shipka for the kids. Sabrina's in there and Macaulay's wife. That's kind of how it works. And Jamie Lee Curtis as well. has to be said. Jamie Lee Curtis, who's really going and giving this getting some indie cred out of this and bringing, she's really the biggest name star on this after Dave. It's pretty much her and Bautista are the big names like you can presumably get investors on here, other than Pamela Anderson. And Jamie Lee Curtis, just terrific always. I really liked this. I'm not going to be a popcorn pleasing Saturday night, seat filler or anything. But I think if you do see it and you are prepared for something in the lines of a Leaving Las Vegas, or even what was that one with Udo Kier, where he was the gay stylist. The gay stylist went back to his hometown for an old client's funeral. And
God. I'm rubbish with names. It had
a really generic title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of those where you typed it into IMDb and it came up with 3 different films that were all completely different. I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, it was Udo Kier as the stylist. This reminded me a lot of that as well. It had that kind of melancholia and retrospect about it. But, like I say, just career-defining role for Pamela Anderson. Absolutely.
Well, The Last Showgirl is already out, so you can see it whenever you like in cinemas. Let's have a quick look at next week, shall we? So we've got Last Breath.
Yes, this is the submarine thriller with Woody Harrelson.
Oh, yes.
I've seen a couple of ads. I've not seen a trailer for it. I only know about it from bus ads, and also they said, "Hey, do you want to see this? It's so and so at so and so." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, cool, I'll come." I've seen a 93-minute Woody Harrelson underwater thriller. Him and Simu Liu, Shang-Chi, I think, that one. So I don't know anything more about it. I'll be an expert by next week, I promise.
It's going to be good if they're advertising it on the side of a bus. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, exactly. We also, how wrong could that go? It's not like Kraven the Hunter sucked, was it?
Fair.
You remember all the ads for Kraven? I remember the bus ads for Madam Web. Jeez, that's the Everest of optimism, that one, isn't it?
And I remember the bus ads for my radio show, so I should have just shut my mouth, really.
There you go. Sell your own social. Were there really bus ads for you? Did you?
Yeah, there were.
Did you get selfies with them and things?
No, I didn't actually. I've had an advert on the side of a bus, and I've had my photo in a massive shopping centre on the wall at about 15 foot big before, and I didn't get photos. Gutted, really, because that will never happen again.
Oh man. My deepest sympathies, my friend. I wouldn't. I'm too vain. I wouldn't be able to resist. I'd be getting all the selfies. Anyway, so what else we got next week? We've got I think it's Sister Midnight, which I don't know an awful lot about. That one's out next week as well. So we've got The Rule of Jenny Penn, which is John Lithgow is who I was thinking of, and Jeffrey Rush, because they were touting this. This was like an awards winner at, I think it was one of the awards festivals back in awards season, like a month or so ago, and no one had heard of the movie and there was no trailer out. That was the weird thing. It's Jeffrey Rush and it's John Lithgow. I think it's based on a Stephen King work.
It looks messed up, so it's got to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we've got that next week as well. We've also got Opus with Io Edibiri from the young actress from The Bear.
Oh yeah,
at the moment. She's the actress. It's her and John Lithgow, and he's like a reclusive 80s pop star or something. It sounds very Blink Twice. So we've got that to see next week. But I think the biggie is Steven Soderbergh is back with a new spy thriller, or spy chiller, one or the other, and it stars Michael Fassbender, and it's called Black Bag. So we've got that to look forward to next week as well.
Well, there's a handful there that I'm really keen to find out more about. So if you want to do the same, you can join us then. That is, of course, all we have time for this week on Off Screen. We will be back next week. Until then, I'm Adam Ball.
I'm Ben Van Connor, and we shall return.